Hi, this is Michael Moore, reporter for TechWeekEurope at InfoSec 2015. I'm joined by Darren Anstee, who's the Director of Solutions Architects at Arbor Networks. Darren, thanks very much for joining us today.
Hi.
So what brings you to InfoSec 2015?
A couple of things. Obviously to support our stand here, where we're talking about our DDoS solutions for protecting organizations from the DDoS threat, which is obviously key at the moment, given the increased reliance many organizations have on internet connectivity. And we're also here talking a little bit about our advanced threat solutions, about how organizations can improve the way in which they detect the advanced threats that are getting through their existing preventative controls. And that's something that I'm talking about this afternoon in my session in the strategy talks.
Okay, yeah, do you want to go into a little bit more detail on your talk?
Yeah, so I'm talking about something called the hunted becomes the hunter, which is all about augmenting our existing event-driven incident response processes with a more proactive threat hunting approach that allows us to focus much more of our time and energy on the threats that really matter, the threats targeting business intellectual property and customer personal information. Event-driven incident response processes are effective. They can stop some of the threats that are out there, but as we can all see from what's going on in the media, some things do get through, and augmenting those processes with a more proactive hunting approach can allow us to stop more of those specific targeted threats.
Okay, so how do you prioritize the threats? I mean, surely everyone feels they're kind of the most important priority, so how do you go about deciding that?
So if you look at the way that security architectures have evolved over the last few years, many of us have implemented additional layers and additional products into those architectures. And all of those solutions generate information which is pushed into our operational security teams. And generally there can be an overload of information there. So we all have correlation and prioritization tools to kind of manage those events down into a more manageable number effectively. But even then, we still tend to have more events than we can deal with. Sometimes things slip through because the raw events those correlation systems are dealing with represent individual violations of one kind or another in very little context. So correlation and prioritization are good in the event-driven paradigm. But what we're going to be talking about, or what I'm going to be talking about later on, is more this threat hunting approach, which we use to augment that so that we use the brain power of our analysts to kind of battle the innovation that the attackers are using against us. They're constantly innovating their way around the new technologies that we're deploying. Why not use the brain power of our analysts to counter that, to allow them more proactive access to the data we already have on our networks, on our threats, on our traffic trends, so that they can use human capabilities of pattern recognition, identifying unusual behavior to stop threats that would otherwise get through.
Okay, and in terms of Arbor Networks, the security space is a very evolving and expanding one. How is your outlook looking over the next year?
So it's looking very positive. Obviously, as you said, there's a lot going on in the security space, especially on the DDoS side of things. On the DDoS side of things, which is one of the key markets that Arbor operates in, we're still seeing a lot of activity out there. We're seeing a big growth in both the enterprise demand for our solutions at the perimeter of their networks. We're also seeing enterprises increasing their demand on service providers for cloud-based DDoS protection solutions, and the whole concept of kind of layered DDoS defense really now seems to be getting down into the enterprise, and it's something that they're increasingly looking at. On the advanced threat space, I think the maxim that we can't keep all threats outside our networks anymore, that infrastructure compromise is inevitable, is starting to sink in as well, and people are starting to look for better ways of stopping the threats that are targeting their information, stopping those more critical threats. So the approach we're taking in the advanced threat space, I think, is resonating as well. So from our side, I think it's looking very good.
Okay, and if there was one thing that you would recommend for companies to be spending their IT security budget on, what would that be?
It's really all about focusing on how they need to protect themselves and what they need to protect. So having a good understanding, I think, firstly, of what attackers are likely to target, how they're likely to target those things, and then selecting solutions that help them to monitor and detect those specific threats. So it's going to be a balance of both technology that enables people and the people to use that technology. So I don't think there's one specific technology I would recommend that people buy over any other at the moment. It's really about getting that understanding of what you need to protect and then deploying your resources appropriately.
Okay, Darren, thanks very much for your time.
No problem, thanks very much.
I've been Michael Moore, reporting for TechWeekEurope.